Three companies, disrupting what you know about marketing and branding. Welcome to M Squared.
Welcome to another edition of M Squared. I'm your host, Dan Ryan. Joining me always, Mike Bloomfield.
What's up?
Anthony Rapp.
What's up, sir?
And we have the pleasure to be joined by one of our good friends, James Thomson Law.
Glad to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Before we dig in, I want to show you something.
Uh-oh.
Something special. Something that I've never even talked to you about, but I have a Bobby Thomson autograph.
Look at that.
Wow.
I saw him signing that ball like 5 minutes ago.
No,
This is pretty good forgery. This looks a lot like it.
So my dad was in the insurance business. There was
Yep.
always, back in the day, they had rowdy parties, and it was, that whole industry was just like drinking and hanging out.
See where he gets it from?
They hire celebrities to come in. I met Jake LaMotta, a couple other people. Bobby Thomson was out one year signing autographs.
Shouldn't it be in?
He's not going to give it to you. He just wants you to know.
No,
No,
I just found
I
it the other day, and I figured if Jimmy's coming on the show,
Yeah, no,
I'd
that's
love
cool.
to show
Don't you
him.
usually keep a signed ball in like a case though, so you don't put your black fingerprints all over it?
I've had this since I was a child.
It's actually it's in better shape than the best one I have. So
Wow.
Bobby,
He's still not going to give it to you.
Give it to
Bobby,
him.
no. So
Wrap it off.
Bobby Thomson, of course, I know you guys know he's my grandfather's brother. He's my greatest athletic achievement because I have no athletic achievement, but I have him for we're talking sports. But so my father, his nephew, was not the type to talk about anything like this. So I didn't even know of the relation or the home run until I was in like third grade. And my uncle at one point signed the baseball personalized to myself and my 5 siblings.
That's cool.
And my parents, being my parents, like tossed it in a room in the attic with a bunch of other things. Listen, no worries about it. Not going to make a big deal about it. And you guys have all seen The Sandlot, the ball that's chewed by the dog. So I was going through one of the rooms in the attic a couple of years ago, and I see like this baseball in a box with, I look, it's like stains all over, and I open it. It's signed by my uncle to myself and my 5 siblings, which he's been gone a long time. Like it's a nice thing to have. So I have it in a plastic box on my dresser now, but that one is much nicer and much cleaner.
I just found this. My parents have moved like 5 times in the last couple of years. They just moved up to the Poconos, and they were unboxing their stuff, and they were opening stuff from when I was a teenager. It was when they first moved to Florida before they moved to New York, and so on and so forth.
It's important.
All right,
we
just
found
give him
out-
the ball.
I'll
That's his-
listen.
fine.
I know.
Wrap it off. Make some money.
Is there a pen? I'll autograph it for you too.
There you go.
Anyone who's,
We'll put the date of the
wrap it off.
podcast.
Make
Anyone
some
who's
money.
listening or watching this
Make
episode
some
right
money
now,
for the foundation.
on the
Wrap
bottom
it
of
off.
this episode, we're going to put a donate now button or an auction now button, and you could start the live auction
This
bidding
is
at $1.
one of one. This is the only one that exists. It says F&G Re Inc. on the bottom. I think.
That's it.
Right? There might be one of one.
We'll open it.
there's
We'll
more
open it
than
at
one. They were
$1,000.
signing them out.
It's one of one.
We're not going to give it to Jimmy Thomson.
Next year we'll find another one.
Instead of being a
But,
good friend and giving it to him, we're just going to raffle it off. $1,000.
this is
Wrap it
cool.
off.
Make
Make
checks
money.
payable to
The
my
Varvaro Foundation.
luxurious hair. Oh, I thought it was going right in your pocket.
Oh, there.
I assumed Dan was getting the revenue.
Go ahead, raffle it off if you can.
So we'll split half to your hair, half to the VAR Foundation. So
My hair needs it.
His hair plugs need a new.
It looks a
need
little droopy today.
It was windy.
Thank you.
It was really windy. It's windier here in the parking lot than any other place in Staten
Oh, he
Island.
said thank you. You gave it to him.
Sure.
It's official.
Raffle it off.
That's it. It's
done.
on. Possession
Done.
is
9/10
9/10 of the law.
there you go. That's it.
Thank you.
So bringing it back, as we have this podcast that has been going on about a year and a half now. We like to think that we're successful at it. We're really not sure. But we're bringing in guests. We're talking about branding. We're talking about what's going on in the local market. We're talking about how entrepreneurs are doing things and trying to provide tips and values for anyone who's listening or watching to take away. Let's talk about the origin story of Jimmy Thomson, right? Because you've had a couple of iterations. We've had the pleasure of knowing you. I've known you, 20 years? Is that true?
Yeah, close to it. I think
I'm
it's something
old,
like
bro.
that. Yep, I
Terrible.
know.
But in any event, over
Flying
20
by.
years, you've reinvented yourself multiple times. So why don't you just give a little background on the origin story of Jimmy Thomson?
So I guess talking about as far as the legal career. So it starts walking across the campus at SUNY Albany, last day of college, and saying to myself, I'm never taking another test. I'm done with school.
Nice.
I'm
That's
gonna
it. I'm
find
done.
a job somewhere. I've had it, and that was the job market right after September 11th. And if I'm being honest, the market wasn't great. I didn't put that much effort into looking for something right away. And 2 of my good friends from college, they had just started law school right after. I didn't. And they said, why don't you take the LSAT and see what's going on? So in the midst of trying to figure out what was next, I took the LSAT. I ended up getting into St. John's and I went there. So I can't say that I was one of those people who planned. There are some attorneys who have a real thirst for the law. They love it. They want to get into it. I can't say that was me from the outset. So going to law school, I learned early that there's a number of different things you can do with that degree. Of course, I interned with Judge Minardo, who was a longtime judge here on Staten Island. I interned with District Attorney Dan Donovan and saw District Attorney side. And then my final internship was with Bobby Scamadella and his firm, Russo, Scamadella, and D'Amato, in real estate law. At that time, they were doing a large project called the Tides of Charleston, which is the first 55 and over community in New York City. There were 190 units, if I believe, that were coming up for sale, and there was another body needed to help out with that. So I was offered a full-time position and ended up there for 15 years, going from intern up to partner, and certainly learned a lot, met a lot of people. Everyone knows that they're a staple of the community for decades. And then March 2021, opened up Thomson Law, which we're a 3-attorney office, 1 paralegal, focusing on transactional law, real estate, business law. Throughout along the way, one of my things that I've done since day one and wanted to do since day one is being involved in the community. I think to my point about I practice law. I've grown to like certain aspects of it.
You
I try
basically
to
want to be a lawyer. You said that 5 minutes ago. We have that on record.
So I didn't walk in just excited about
He had no passion.
I like the business aspect. I like being involved in the community. I like being around people. So I know that's how I came to meet all of you guys, and I would say that's still something that is a core value of our office and something I enjoy.
As long as that community is Forest Avenue and Westerly.
That's it.
They don't want to
That's
go.
it.
He doesn't want to come down to us.
No.
So talk about the venturing out, right? So we've had guests that are entrepreneurs. We've had guests that are CEOs in larger companies. So talk about the taking the step. Like what we all have similar stories, but what's your story? So it's a scary thing, right? You're working for someone. You're paid. You liked what you do. You were good at what you did. And you're like, you know what, screw it. So how do you do that? And what went into the marketing, the branding, the creating the new identity?
I think so. And I think everybody here knows that the number one thing is, what do you want to do? And I think the more time that you spend doing anything, you learn what parts of it you like, what parts of it you don't, what your vision is, what your vision's not. And I just think it hit that point where at the time that I opened Thomson Law, I just turned 40 years old. I have my own ideas now about what I would like my office to look like. And if I'm not going to do it now, when am I going to do it? It's scary, yeah, but it's scary. Being in business by yourself, I think being in business, no matter what, being an owner of a small business, no matter what, sometimes it's scarier to make the move or to not make the move that seems to be the best one for you. Also, being honest with something like professional services, if you have your own client base, if you have an idea of what that looks like starting out. And when I started, it wasn't we had 1 paralegal, that was it, myself and 1 paralegal. Quickly added 1 attorney, and then that was within 2 months, and then a few months after added another. So it wasn't like I started out with, hey, there are 4 bodies here that we have to take care of. That was it. So I've had people say it. I get it. I found it to be more excitement than anything. Just definitely the nerves, the adrenaline, but it was something new after 15 years, and also I guess a year being locked in the house for COVID, and that was it. So
And we can't even ask him about the branding because all lawyers use their last name. So that's like doesn't even apply. Like, what are you going to do? We'll call it Thomson Law.
But he was smart
nice logo.
because I
Real
remember
original.
having the conversation with him very early on when he was planning this, and he was taking the domain name very serious. Like, what should I do for domain name? What's going to help me with SEO? I don't want to pigeonhole myself into just Staten Island. I want to think the next picture. And he was smart enough to think those early enough on.
So if we're just talking mostly about branding, we have put some more thought into some things recently. So in New York, it's a recent change within the past few years that a law office is allowed to use a trade name and not just the government name. I think what you've seen maybe 10 years ago, almost invariably, any office would have the last names of either the original partners or current partners or a mix. Now you're seeing a lot more acronyms. That seems to be the new thing where a lot of offices, they have the first letter of the last name of whoever the partners in the name are. We have put some thought into it. I think it's a little bit difficult for a law office to pick something that you like, and to Mike's point, that doesn't pigeonhole you in. If you know that you just do real estate, maybe you call yourself real estate firm. Or if you're representing businesses, one of my friends, Yogandra Patel, was one of the first, I think, to probably jump on the trade name, and he calls his office outside counsel, which it sends a message about what they do. But if you are thinking about expanding, adding, removing over time, and you're looking to have a name that will sustain, you probably don't want to lock it into a practice area necessarily, unless it's one that's flexible. So we've got some ideas going back and forth, but nothing has quite struck us perfect.
But the good thing is
yet.
people like you. And we'll talk about your community involvement, right? So
having
having
Thomson
Thomson,
names,
right?
right? I mean, they
But
know
not
it 'cause
everybody likes a lot of lawyers.
Yeah, but they're buying him, right?
Right.
They're
He's
buying
the product.
his professional service, and that's
But that's
how you got to
that's early on, though, right?
But that's a problem.
As you
That's a
grow,
problem,
he doesn't
too.
want them to buy him. They
Right.
want him
What's
to
the
buy the
succession?
firm.
Of course.
Yeah.
And the team is good too. And I've always felt that even myself, when I'm across the table from other attorneys, there are times that someone's a partner and I don't realize it because they're not in the name, or that if someone's not getting the job done, you're like, oh, maybe they're not the A team, if you want to call it that. And that's definitely not always the case. So I think that the individual name thing isn't reflective of the team and in a way diminishes some of the rest of the team unintentionally. And that's one of the things that we've spoken about. My team can even say, I've asked them, what do you think for a name? Because I'm not holding on to this just here. And it's for a law firm. It is a little tough. So we're figuring it out.
And being on the outside, you don't realize, but it's crazy because we recently started watching, I can't believe he doesn't watch, Suits.
Here we go.
And they literally go, and you see the turmoil that occurs, at least on a show, over the name, right? Like I'm at the point where it's now Piercing Spector Law, and then there's Louis Litt, who wants to be in the name, and he's a senior partner, but not the name, and it's destroying him in the show. And for us on the outside, we would never think about that, but I'm sure.
And what do you think is the maximum amount of names you can go before it's just ridiculous?
I think Scamandella.
5.
I think Scamandella maxed it out.
Scamandella, one
It
name?
was Scamandella, Gervasi, Thompson,
4.
Casagrande. Who
4.
else? Yeah, it was too much.
I think 4. I think 4 is the max number personally. I think 3 is like flows
I think
just
2
right.
is the one that was like coined by like Salino and Barnes, and they have that's what people
Right.
think of. It's like Morgan and Morgan.
Right.
And it's just these.
Morgan and Morgan.
And if you go with the nickname, usually it stops after 2. If someone's got, even I would, if I would say Scamandella Gervasi when I was saying the law firm name, I'm going to stop at some point.
can't just keep going.
You just got to
I
keep
worked
hiring
at,
people with the same last name.
I worked at Dwyer and Bernstein when I was in college, but what was interesting is that it was a legacy name, and it turned into ODB. Everybody just
Right,
called
that
it
makes sense.
ODB.
ODB?
ODB.
That's great. That might work on Staten Island, the ODB law firm.
Probably, yeah.
That's you got the name. Look at that.
The word will definitely work.
But it's tough. If you're a big law firm, if you've been around forever, that's a brand name on its own. These firms have been around 100 years, and I'm sure Dan knows plenty of them from what he does. That's one thing. But if you're a smaller office, if someone retires, do you keep the name or not? You're trying to add people on. How long does that keep a value? Are you devaluing the people coming up? It's a tough conversation to have. And we had that as we were changing Russo, Scamandella, and D'Amato to SGT.
And Gervasi.
So when we would,
And
it's like,
and
what
Casagrande.
do you do? Do you go with an office name that's been around forever that's got that has recognition? Do you go, and it's not an easy answer. There's not a wrong answer, but that goes to what I was saying before, that I'd like to go for the trade name, but we'll see.
I think law is
that'd
unique
be
because
cool.
you don't. And as a branding guy, I could say this, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think law at this scale. I don't. In other words, like Salino and Barnes nationwide, this that. But for smaller offices,
Right.
like even like us, like smaller businesses, I think you're getting your law firm could be named baseball. People know you.
Right.
How often are you actually getting cold calls that aren't referrals or leads that are coming through? So I think that's how you got to look at the branding and the marketing of the firm, because you're the product, like Dan said.
Well,
and
it's-
refer like
It's a really
you
good
could call
point.
yourself whatever you want. I'm going to tell everyone you have to be their lawyer.
I guess it depends on how you're marketing, right? We don't do a ton outside of face-to-face referrals. It's just not something that we've done much of yet. But we did, through our practice management program, do a little bit of Google ads and some kind of returns. Now, if you're getting something like that, it really doesn't matter, I would think. Obviously, I'm always interested in the opinion that you guys have. If you approach it a different way, I would think that you then can take something that's selling more of one person than maybe it wants to and turn it into something that's a bigger brand and makes it easier to possibly add people, easier to have a succession plan, make it something that is more sustainable over the long term in a different way than a name that just has local recognition and frankly is probably going to diminish over time as far as an individual is concerned.
I don't think your name
I-
is good.
see,
Once someone retires or whatever.
I sent him, it was a couple of months ago, a video. Like I was on YouTube and there was, I don't remember what legal court case it was, but I actually found the guy on YouTube who it does a breakdown of legal court cases. And I sent it to Jim and I was like, I could see you doing this. I could see you sitting with the books in the back and now dumbing this down for the people, going
Scotch on the
through.
rocks, cigar.
Right. And saying, hey, here's this 30-page court document, and here's what it really means.
Right.
And going through, and I said, that's your way to build branding. Jump, I know, and we've had this conversation where he wants to stay out of the politics side for business. You can't. But I said, do it for both sides then. Breaking down, because that is what will get people to watch.
Now, and even there's times to say a new law will come out, and we get the email in, the updates we get, something new to learn. We have to update everything. But to us, and it's part of the job, but To other people, to lay people, it probably is interesting, some of this stuff. And that's a view that I think we have to take and that would be better off executing. The LLC disclosure law that was recently blown around in New York.
I haven't called you about that yet, by the way.
Yeah,
Wait,
the property condition disclosure
What's he
that went
talking
into
about?
effect yesterday in New
He'll
York
tell you.
State.
You got to file something different now. They're taking money from us.
It's
right?
like the perfect thing for a lawyer because it's a federal filing. You
have to pay them.
Everybody has to do it. Every business owner.
Wait,
pretty
even
much.
if you're existing?
Even
Yeah,
if you're
all
existing
of us.
within a year.
I have to
within a
file
year.
3 of them. You have to file probably a couple of them. He's got to file them.
Pretty much everybody has to do it. However,
So you'll be sending me
it sounds
an email?
scary. However, it's very simple. So when you call up, you have great fear, and you need somebody to rely on. You need advice. You need security, and I can give all of that to you, and it's much more simple than it needs to be. So it's not like it's something difficult. It's an online filing that it's for a federal agency. So it's been building up for a while. Behind the scenes, FinCEN has been trying to regulate money coming in via LLCs from overseas for a variety of different reasons. And it's been monitored on the real estate side. There have been certain counties, and of course, if they start with monitoring certain counties, New York is usually front and center, which it was in this case, that any all-cash transaction that was over a certain number, where an LLC was the purchaser, the FinCEN disclosure form had to be filed by the title company. Then it expanded to more counties and different numbers, and it was only for a short term, then it was multiple more terms after that. And where it is now is that if you form most businesses, that'll be the disclaimer, check with your lawyer, check with your accountant, make sure it
This is not
applies to
financial
you.
advice.
And if you need a lawyer,
It's not legal advice.
NYNJ.law. But if you see, nice and quick.
you go.
But if within 90 days of forming an entity going forward, starting as of January 1st, you have to file information online as far as who the members are and also upload photo ID. For any existing business, it has to be done within the year.
Trying to pierce the veil.
how'd you know that?
I'm smart.
He
You
follows,
forget.
my Instagram.
That's true. I
you
should have said that. I wasn't ready.
You don't pay any attention to me.
wasn't
And
ready.
I feel hurt, but
He thinks very highly of himself. He's smart.
I'm very intelligent, highly attractive. I'm even
He
funny.
was probably researching you yesterday. He was on your
Even-
Instagram.
Even funny. No, because Benny told me how to do it. And
there you go. Yeah.
I'm not taking credit for that.
I don't even think we posted it yet.
But I got to get it to him. We got to get it done. It's like $100 or $50 or
But you-
something, but it's going to cost you, if you forget to do it, it's going to be.
But that's the type of thing.
You go to jail. On
Yeah.
New Year's, it's within 1 year if it exists. So New Year's Day,
come pick me
2025,
up.
they come pick you up after the
After
ball
the day I've
drops.
had today,
But
maybe they'll
you're-
come pick me up
You're,
now.
you're a Christmas guy, so at least
Yeah.
you get your
I
holiday,
get my-
and then
that's
after
good.
New Year's you get a little break. So
That's fine.
But that's the example of you got an email from your accountant telling you that. And when I'm trying to learn, and a lot of business owners now, where we are in 2024, where a lot of business owners go, is you go to YouTube. So if I get that from my accountant and I go search on YouTube what's going on, and you're there to now comfort them, talk to them. By the way, if you need help filing it, that's why I think YouTube could be great for you.
No, I think it's something that I appreciate. I think it's something that we'd look to put more time into. Just it's not a step that we've taken yet. I've spoken to different people at different times about if we go on YouTube, do you go with something like just interesting current events? Do you go with weird legal news? Or do you just stick with your practice areas and really brand that way?
It's a mixed bag, right? I think it's a little bit of the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
So tips, tricks, they're interesting, they're engaging. You could use them for other social outlets and other search engine type of information that's going to be feeding into YouTube. With the education stuff, you create a content library and you index it properly.
Right.
It's going to be really successful for you. And then you could drive people to that YouTube channel.
You almost could do different sections too, right? Like where Tuesday could be weird law tip day, and
Right.
then and as current events come out. Obviously, I'll tell you, a YouTuber you'll probably never watch, but Brian Taylor Cohen, he does a lot of like on the Democratic
He's not
side.
sponsoring the show, just so everyone.
He's not, and most of people watch this will never want to watch his YouTube. But he does do a good job because he does that where he has some legal stuff, and then he breaks it into like on YouTube. You could categorize it.
everybody's different,
He's an attorney.
He's not an attorney. He's a
Good example.
probably not a supporter of Republicans. So he puts out lots of different things on
why he's
things
the tech guy.
against the.
The reason I was asking was because, obviously it depends what you're going for. I'm politically involved locally, and I did used to post more about that, and then found out that was driving conversations that came my way in the political direction. Even there were times that people would say to me, "Oh, I just bought a house. I was speaking to your brother 2 months ago. I didn't realize you did that." Meanwhile, they'd spoken to me half a dozen times over the past couple of months about an upcoming election. And I still don't do enough with our practice area branding on my personal pages, at least, but I realized that I'm branding myself as something that may not be exactly what I would want to focus on. Right. Then again, I know there are also some attorneys who are very involved as far as politics goes, or very general practice, or maybe, like you said, they're just looking to drive traffic and play that game very well. But
if you educate them, they're going to come to you. So if you did a 10-minute video on this LLC thing, most people are going to Google whatever it is that actual law is, or even
Right.
it's someone like me, like what's the deal with the LLC filing. If you come up, they're going to watch it. They don't have to know who you are, learn who you are. And then in the bottom, in the footnotes and the tags, was it NYJT, NYNJ,
NYNJ.law.
NYNJ.law, they just go to it. And now that goes to a lead form, and all of a sudden you got an email address because you're educating as long as you're not selling.
But then
Right.
you watch what catches fire. Like we got to build the content to get there to see what people are consuming and liking, and then you can focus in on that. It's,
Well, we had that
Finn
with
McKenty.
Finn McKenty, yeah.
exactly.
He spoke about, so we had him on. What's he, a couple of million subscribers, follows on YouTube, and he said the first like 8 months, year, he had nothing. He like, it was nothing. I'm doing this and doing it. And then I did one video and I changed it slightly and it just jumped.
Right.
And he said I knew that was what I was going to stick with, and he stuck with it and just kept going
Now
from
he's got
there.
millions of subscribers.
And when
Do
you
you
look
think it's more art or science making that leap?
both,
I say art.
I think it's both.
I think it's a balance.
Because
I think it's a balance.
Because you could take really crappy content with a really good thumbnail and it could do really well.
Of course.
Or vice versa. You could take really good content with a crappy
But you have
thumbnail
to know how
and
to-
it goes really
But you
poorly.
have to know how to create that. To know the science is knowing I need that good thumbnail.
Correct.
It's knowing that, all right, we speak about you put good cameras. You could literally record the podcast on your phone, but if
Doesn't
you
matter.
have good content,
Right.
you figured out the demographic you're going to and how to deliver it, it could go viral.
The Gary Vee method. He believes you could just do it anything.
He wanders
doesn't
around
care.
town as he's walking
On
from
Twitter
building-
Live, holding his phone, wind, things blowing,
Right.
100, 200, 300 million subscribers. Listen, follow, tune in because they don't care about the content.
That's what COVID.
Rather, they don't care about the quality, I should say.
But I think
Content.
he would tell you to go for it. Do
But
everything.
he's going to tell
do it
you.
all.
I've seen Gary Vee speak at a few
I was
conferences.
so pissed that when you were there
two,
and I
two
wasn't there.
conferences, and both
So
times he
annoying.
said the same thing. He said,
You're not
"Just
gonna do
do it. Just
Yep.
do it every day."
But then he said, and everyone in this room is not going
he
to
said,
do it. Right?
he says that all the time.
You're not
Yeah,
gonna
he said,
do it.
"I'm telling you right now, the way to get successful is to go on LinkedIn every day, post a video, do it every day for 6 months, and it'll go." And he goes, "And 99% of you will never go. You're going to leave. You'll post one video, post two, and stop."
It's probably the best advice, right? Any real estate client I have says the same. If you ask them what their core advice is to start out, it's just go. Just start.
Post. Just start.
Let time start to pass. Go out there, take
Do you
action.
know Michelle
fail.
Nicolo.
Do you know Michelle Nicolo?
Yes.
Okay. So she's a great example. And again, not sponsored by, was it Di Tommaso? This is not
Yeah,
sponsored by Di Tommaso or Michelle.
Sheeta Falco.
But anyway,
No, she's a Di
but we saw her at Cyborg last year.
Yes.
She was on the podcast with us, and she was talking about how I'm just going to do it. I was like,
And we
go
challenged
ahead.
her.
and she did it, and now she's on fire every day. I can't scroll through my feed without her saying, "Hey, it's Michelle, and I'm in Tottenville. Hey, it's Michelle, and I'm over here." So a good example, because you mentioned a realtor, she ran with it.
Right.
Not every realtor's doing that.
Yep.
Same way, not every lawyer. You have an opportunity because there are I can't think of a lawyer. I'm not going to say that I know everything, but can you think of a local lawyer that's doing any sort of real social content? I can't think of one.
No,
So you have a unique
I
opportunity.
think a lot of lawyers are very conservative business-wise. Obviously,
Because it's boring. Let's call it what it is.
There's that. There's a challenge.
Law is not sexy.
There's the challenge of how to. I think it can be but
It can be.
To lawyers, it's not. To lawyers, it's not.
you can make it.
because you deal with it every day and can dry your brain out in a way. But that's you. But then when you speak to a client or you speak to somebody who really gets into the questions, or some new law comes out that a lot of people speak about, and I think you see the interest that it draws from people, and it almost gets your mind. I think as somebody who at some point had a passion for the law coming into it, going again on that end. But I think I would say it's tougher than other areas, but. If you're pumping out content, I have to imagine most areas are tough to really put out that type of volume unless you're just going, unless you're just willing to I'm going to come up with something to say that I, in my own mind, think is interesting. And if that's the case, then hopefully other people do as well, and it picks up.
And it's that organic find, right? Where it's realizing, all right, maybe the business owner isn't going to look, but if you're going after estate law and trying to do wills, and you do a weird tip, or a weird law, right? Isn't there the law where you can't sit on a milk crate in New York City?
I mean, it just
He would know about
it. It just being St. Patrick's Day, you can't dance with a hat on, and I believe it's North Dakota. If you had like a leprechaun hat on and you dance in the Irish jig at the bar,
But,
you can get in some trouble.
you do a 2-3 minute video on that and the origin of how this came and why it started. Like, why did this become law? And obviously, it shouldn't be law now, but it's still there. But you get that person who's watching it just because it came up and it's getting and that person says, "Oh wow, I do need a will while I'm here at the end." Oh, well, let me reach out.
Did you know that you can't drink or store beer in your house in most areas of Westerly on Staten Island?
Is that true?
Is that a
By
prohibition?
document, it's true. So Westerly was
Where all the Irish
Westerly
live.
was pro. I know Westerly was it's everything's legal over there.
was gonna say.
Westerly was Prohibition Park. That's what it was, a long time ago. And if you even those streets, Neil Dow, places over there are named after famous prohibitionists. In order to enforce that 100 years ago, whatever it was, there are documents recorded against a lot of the properties over there that say that you cannot consume or store alcohol at your house. So one of my friends was buying a property, and we were at, and he enjoys his beers every night. So we were closing, and we're going over some documents. I noticed the thing up in the title report. I was like, let me nonchalantly mention, you understand, like, you can't have any beer in the house. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, it's Westerly. I said, you ever see, for the past 100 years or so, nobody can have a beer in their house here. You should have seen his face. It's like a mild-mannered good friend who wanted to say things, and I'm not allowed to say. I don't think this is R-rated.
Say whatever, we'll bleep
Yeah,
it.
so, all right. So, but, and it's not enforceable. It's
But
again,
still law.
But it's there.
He should probably
Correct.
go check his walls and see if there's anything,
There's gotta be something
any
in there.
extras,
Money
any
bottles.
bottles in the wall.
I think
Ozark. I want the money in the wall.
I think it's still illegal to commit adultery in New York State. That's actually up right
that
now. to
hasn't
get
always
repealed.
been illegal. What do you mean?
Maybe in the church, but I don't think separation.
Not in real life?
Separation,
Right.
no.
Oh.
I think it's illegal.
So
I
it's,
think
it's legal to cheat on your wife legally?
No, it's
it's
illegal.
It's illegal.
That's what I said. I thought
Yeah,
it
but
was.
it's not. But
He
why?
just said the church, though.
Yeah,
No, it's against the church. Maybe in the church it's not allowed.
But
I'm
it's
saying-
I don't think
illegal.
people.
No,
I don't
illegal.
think people are getting arrested.
Well,
I
of
think
course
somebody
not.
upstate did once within the past 20 years. I think
that's
I think,
because she slept with the police chiefs. Like,
Yeah.
Or his wife was a lawyer. His wife was a lawyer.
Yeah. I'd love to hear the backstory on that. Speaking of backstories, but yeah, it was. I think once in the past 20 years, someone's been arrested for it in the state of New York. It's something along those lines.
I think one of the things that we're talking about that comes up, and you didn't ask the question, I formulated it in my head, but as he's talking, as you were talking, I think one of the one of the biggest issues that most people, even including us, but everyone who comes on, or even people we deal with, yourself included, it's like you said before, it's just going. And the fear is that you don't have enough time, or that
Right.
you can't do it. So one of the things this whole show will be an episode. It'll be a YouTube piece. It'll be probably 25 pieces of content for social. It can be, we haven't gotten there yet, but the next version of it would be that all this can be extracted and become a blog post. So it's finding creative ways, and what we're trying to do is educate some other brands and businesses about it, but finding creative ways that your 45 minutes today creating content, wherever it may be, right? So if it's your office, whatever it is, that 45 minutes can become 45 days of content across all your platforms. I think when you think of it that way, people, brands, companies, then it almost becomes something they can do.
Right.
When people just talk about it, yeah, we're going to go make 150 YouTube videos, we're going to film myself, I'm going to have a camera crew follow me around.
Right.
No one's
not
doing
every video is
Right.
5 minutes.
No
It's
one's doing
that 5 minute video that you make, the long format video that you air on Tuesday, is actually helping you to put 30 pieces of reel out, the one-liners, the things to engage people to get them to go watch that.
Right.
So they could resurface a year
Right.
later and then take off. Then it's the whole dynamic is just being able to create it. You
Right.
schedule it. You make sure that it's right for you.
No
And
one
you got to
thinks
be
they have the
confident
time.
doing it.
And there is some element of if you can repost things, you don't know at what point it's going to take off. It might just be the third
Right.
time for whatever reason. What hits, and really it's a giant
One of
number.
the biggest hacks we've learned internally, which makes no sense, and I didn't actually think it would work, but it did, is you can actually go into YouTube now and you could change. You probably always could, but you would never think why. But you could change the title of old videos, and it breathes new life into them. So I just thought that made no sense. But
Right.
Finn Kenty actually told us this. So I tried it a couple times, and there's some M Squared stuff, and there's some stuff for the Grace Foundation that we went in and we're like, all right. For example, the episode was called "We're going to make a pizza for Dan on the street." If we change that, and that video that we posted a month ago had 100 views, we changed it to "How to make a pizza," it got 1,000 views. The same video that was residing on their YouTube page for a month, we added a different word, backspace something, pressed upload again,
Yep.
and 1,000 views the next day. It's crazy how if you retool it, to Mike's point of just going in and even content
What is that?
that's
Just
there.
like a new search word element, or just the fact that it's
No,
fresh?
you
Just the
can-
fact
I
that it's
think
fresh.
it's the way that people look for things.
It's how they're searching.
YouTube's a search engine.
Right.
It's the second largest in the world, owned by the largest. I guess the questioning, right? The way you
the
phrased
way it's phrased, right?
was coming off of a thumbnail that a handful of people had input on or whatever, and the way that you iterated.
I'm not
it-
picking on you.
I'm
We
not.
did- I'm saying- I used you as an example,
That's
but-
fine. No, but how to make a pizza is way more
resounded
interesting.
better,
And
right.
people look for food content and how to make things.
And we've done it with
whatever.
us too. Like
not just
the
watching.
Finn McKenty piece.
I think I figured out. Did you take the word dang out of it?
No, but like with the Finn McKenty piece, instead of, I think one of his clips with this YouTube guy that we were fortunate to have on, it was something like how to go viral, but some variation of that. But then when we changed that from how to go viral to how to get 1 million views on YouTube, we didn't get 1 million views, but we got an extra 500-600 views.
Right.
Just based. So I don't know. There's probably other practitioners who do this every day and it's just new to us.
Right.
But I never realized there was actually value in going in to redo these things.
Right.
Because you
but
figure you
you're
did
probably,
it, it's gone.
You're probably good at that, being that your journalism background.
But I never thought it would work. To see it work was interesting. You know what I mean? And now it makes you think. So you could actually go and help. Like you have
Right, I
tons
have
of video content.
They're old. Like I could literally just have Julia rip through and rechange titles.
Right. And who knows what
And
would happen.
descriptions, right.
And it's content you have.
We all know probably for all the thought and plan we put into execution sometimes. There's times
never
it works,
works.
but there's times something gets thrown off or you get forced
Oh,
into
yeah.
something, you just throw something at some point and in a way that you wouldn't have, and it works better than,
Right.
than
And
what
you're
you
like,
had in mind.
how did that happen? Why?
Yeah.
Why did it work?
Got to have some element of chaos, I think, to hit the next steps if that's what you're looking to do.
Just interesting. So you have time. So you should start making content. That's the key. We should start having you
I
make
don't know if I
content.
have time. We're getting there.
We got to force you. See? No one has time.
We have to find some.
And then when you look how much money you can actually make on YouTube, like when we were calculating after we had Fing on, he told us how many views and how much he gets paid for every 1,000 views. It was a 6 figures he was making just from YouTube and giving him money for
Side
that.
gig.
That's a
And
side
that's
hustle.
before
Side
all
gig.
and that's side gig, and that's before
his job.
the advertising, the sponsorship.
Right.
That was just the money based on how
Eyeballs.
many views.
What threshold do you cross over when you're at that level where you're at? It's actually where the posts are monetizing themselves.
So on Instagram, it's 10,000 where
Subscribers.
subscribers. And on YouTube, I believe it's also 10,000. Because once we hit 1,000, we
It's
fell
amount
back
of
a lot.
hours
Yep.
on YouTube.
And watch
And it's
like
hours
views.
too.
But it's
yeah.
also, you have to hit all the criteria. So like our account, Grace's account, a couple other accounts that we work with, they hit a bunch of thresholds. It's a certain amount of views, it's a certain amount of hours, and then it's a certain amount of subscribers. And once you hit those benchmarks, there's different things that open up on the YouTube platform that allow you to get sponsorship, that allow you to get monetization. So you could actually go, do you have a YouTube channel? Just asking, I don't know.
We do not.
So create one, just
Right.
learn, and you could see. But it'll actually tell you, and then you get alerts that'll say you got 10,000 views. But it's a learning process.
Right, yeah.
Anyone who tells you that there's a magic bullet, they're wrong. And Finn said that. And if a guy with 100 million subscribers or whatever the case may be, who's been doing it for years, can say there really isn't a magic bullet, it's just consistency and it's
Right.
just going at it and continuing to see what works, then
He figured,
I believe it.
He figured something out because about a month ago, Fing released. You can now, he has like a mastermind course where he'll teach you
Perfect.
how to do it, and
Sure.
you can sign up with him.
I'll sign up with them. Why not mine? I'll help you.
I was thinking about doing
I'll pay for, was it 6,000,
it.
5,000?
No, I think it was cheaper than that. It was.
He's not a $99 a month course. He's probably big boy.
He was
course.
talking about. He was talking about starting.
Yeah, but he did it. He launched it. But he said it's more for the because he goes through. He has a video that goes where it's for. He didn't really say for the small business. It was more for like the person who is trying to create content, create a YouTube on a topic.
Solo.
Yeah.
So away from all the personal stuff that we're talking about, we spoke about you from a legal standpoint and what a great person you are. Talk about the newest project and something that's near and dear to your heart, the Vivaro Foundation, and coming off that recent success at the Hilton. Give us a little oversight.
Sure. My brother-in-law, as you guys know, my brother-in-law, Anthony Vivaro, he was a Major League Baseball player and then a Port Authority police officer and was going to protect Ground Zero on September 11th, 2022, and was killed on the way to work by a wrong-way driver, leaving my sister, their 4 children, his parents, brother, and then a bunch of us as well. I don't think any real silver lining you can put on something like that, but you do the best you can to carry the legacy on and do some good coming from it. The family formed the Anthony Vivaro Believe Foundation, the word believe coming from a tattoo that he had on his wrist about believe in yourself, just believe in believe is the way my sister described it as why he put it there. The purposes are to help families going through unforeseen tragedy find belief, I think for obvious reasons, and then also to support youth sports in the community. Anthony was the president of Snug Harbor Little League at the time of his passing. My brother Dennis was one of the main guys involved there and became president after the fact. They've done a huge renovation project down there, and I think about 3 years worth of their goals that had been set out for development were done within 6 months' time, lights on the field, all that stuff. And then the next step was the foundation. So the first dinner was March 2nd. About over 670 people attended. The fundraise was great, thank God. A lot of support from The community, friends, Port Authority, police, Tunnel to Towers Foundation was fantastic. Help from you guys, rap.
We don't count.
Our friendship survived, even though I drove rap absolutely bonkers at the end, getting all the graphics and stuff done. It's near and dear to our heart to keep his legacy going. He certainly deserves it, and to do some good. And we were able to donate. There were funds raised to excess of, I think, what was expected to keep going. In addition to what we have, we were able to grant 38,000. Anthony's jersey number was 38, so we wanted that to be the number, to the family of a first grade girl who's in Anthony's son Christian's class and is fighting cancer, to help them spend time with her while she battles. And then there was also a 50-50 done for a firefighter who passed the week before of a sudden heart attack, who had been a friend of, who actually worked with my brother Greg for 10 years beforehand, died suddenly, leaving a 6-week-old child and his wife. And as the number was counted towards the end of the night, with a donation of just a couple hundred to round it out, it actually ended up being 38,000 there too.
Wow.
So yeah, I know. And that was, so those were the two that we were able to help so far. Recollecting now, see what goes on, and definitely look to keep it going. But it seemed that it was a good start, and we appreciate the support from so many people on that.
So outside of it being an amazing event, we were all there, and you did a fantastic job. I want to switch gears because we have a unique opportunity with you that we don't usually get. So you went from owner-operator of the law firm to then wearing the hat of running an event, executing an event. Now, there are a lot of businesses who don't bring on people to do things like that. Not everybody can afford me. No, I'm just saying. but I'm saying there's a lot of people who do that. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, was this your first venture into that world officially, of trying to organize and execute something of this scale?
This was the first one putting it together right that way.
So talk about it. So what did you learn? Because these are valuable insights for folks that may be listening or watching, that they are the president of this company, or they're the CEO of this company, and something happens and they want to move forward. What were some of the things you learned? What were some of the things that you took away saying, oh, I didn't realize that the seating arrangement was going to be such a pain in the ass, or I didn't know that when we're putting out a flyer, we had to do it this way? Because it's like a whole new world that you entered, right?
I'm trying to think. We were really spoiled in a lot of ways, because we needed a logo. My friend Frank Floridia introduced me to a gentleman named Todd Radom, who's been doing Major League logos. He did the last logo at Yankee Stadium, Derek Jeter's 3,000th hit, Ken Griffey's Hall of Fame. And he was aware of the story, and he's I'll do it, I'll donate it. So we had that.
And that logo was great. I didn't know that.
So we had a Tunnel to Towers Foundation. My father is known, Frank Siller, who runs that for a very long time. Frank has been very good to our family throughout this whole thing. So as you know, he heard about it. He reached out right away. We got a lot of support from them and the team. So I would say maybe an example there is, and I know you were part of the conversation too, getting the credit card processing up and running and going the right way.
The things you don't think of.
That right, that you can do the raffles, like tremendously helpful having the experience of them, of PR Cision, the lighting, the way it was laid out, Pro Show Partners in Sound, Beanie, that whole team, second to none, putting everything together. And then and the staff at the Hilton too, certainly, because when it came down to last minute, there was a mix-up with the seating chart and something with the table list, and everything had to be organized. And I'm looking at it, this looks like a disaster. And they looked at it and just said, you know what?
Shout out to Jen.
Shout out to Jen big time. They looked at the list and they said, we have enough time, we got this. And yeah, it was my first time being that involved in putting it together and executing on that. But I know we've all been involved in putting a bunch of them together. And no matter what, it looks sloppy behind the scenes.
Right.
It looks sloppy behind the scenes. It's always a rush to the finish line. What can you get done? What's not going to get done? Anytime you're running an event, there's always more you can do.
It's a full-time job plus.
And the beauty is of what you said, though, is the beauty is that no one knows what it's supposed to look like.
But
that's always the
because, because everyone shows up and it
That's
looks
why
perfect.
you're so successful.
That's the key to my success. No one knows what it's supposed to look like. If that baseball was supposed to be there and it's there, people are going to go, wow, that's fantastic. What great thought to put it next to the SI Live logo. Meanwhile, it belongs there because what was supposed to be there is gone or broken.
Like a perfect example, I walk in and you're putting the table tents in, and I'm like, it looks smoked. Why? He goes, they ordered smoked plastic. They ordered the wrong one. I'm like, are you sure?
Not they.
So now I'm like helping him, and then I say, wait, you could peel this off. He goes, we're not peeling them off, 60 of them. No one's going to ever notice. Right. Don't touch it.
I knew they weren't smoked, but I didn't want to peel them because I knew we would start peeling them. And me and the staff of the Hilton had already put 58 of them on. And he's, oh, you can peel. No, Mike, just go home. Just go home.
That's it. To be honest, I just like to give more work to Rap. He told me that today.
We weren't even supposed to be in there at the time. We just roamed in.
That's true. Dan was looking for the ball. I don't know why Mike was looking.
At the end of the day, no one gives a shit about stuff like that. And if they do, get them out of there.
But no one knew. No one had any idea, but it was perfectly executed.
It looks good.
No, it was a great tribute to him and 700 strong out of the gate. That was incredible. It was a great night.
Thank you. I appreciate the feedback from you guys. I'm glad that's the vibe that it was, because he certainly deserves it, and see where it goes next.
And our friends here at the Advance, Graceland, will be writing a piece. It should be coming out this week, so depending on when this episode airs, but you can check it out on SI Live. Just look up Vivaro Foundation photos or in SI Live, however you categorize it. But again, Graceland is going to be writing something nice. So if anybody's listening or watching, in addition to going to the website, what is it, av38.org?
av38.org. Like, it's a nice, tight.
Go to av38.org to learn more about the mission of the organization itself, and then check out SI Live.
Listen, Jimmy, thanks for coming in here today. We appreciate you. The insights into kind of branding out the law and what you're doing is really interesting. Great work with the Vivaro Foundation, and
Appreciate it.
You're always welcome to come on back.
Great hanging out with you guys. Thanks for the baseball.
And before
I'll see
David
you all soon,
kills
all right?
us, give us the handles, give us the website.
All right. Handles, Instagram, nynj.law, website, nynj.law, and for Facebook, facebook.com/business.law. Thank you very much.
Don't forget to follow and share this content. Subscribe to M Squared on YouTube. Follow and share this stuff, and don't forget to tag Jimmy Thomson and Jimmy Thomson Law. And I'm Anthony Rapp.
I'm Mike
that's a wrap.
Bloomfield.
I'm Dan Ryan.